Good evening. Welcome to another episode of. Which one is this? That one? Let's check the slide here. Try not to blind you with light. Lighting is very important in the video log space, I hear. How's this? Let's see. Oh man. Top down, making all the shadows. Let's turn down haze a little bit. Here in the shop on a Saturday night, I have decided to stop being such a hoarder of brass and components. So I had, so you can see it, I think over here. Oh, my stupid, dumbass chair's in the way. Right there, where all those storage boxes are. Gotta plug myself back in here. Right where all those storage boxes are, I keep a lot of brass. And some of it is useful. Some of it is just because, like, I am a brass hoarder, and so I can't say no to components on the range. So, like, there will be 20 pieces. Well, actually, this evening, I threw away 5 pieces of PMC 308 that I had resized to 243. Why? Why did I keep that? Why did I even resize it? I'm drinking a Lone Star, by the way. Pretty exciting. This vlog, sponsored by Accurate Ordnance. Accurate Ordnance, home of some of the finest custom-built precision bolt guns out there, and some of the best customer service in the gun industry. Accurate Ordnance, in Georgia, worth the drive, worth the flight, worth the shipping, as far as I'm concerned. I've only ever shot 2 of their rifles. One of them I own in 308, and shoots half-minute pretty much all day long in all conditions with Federal Gold Medal, with Norma, with Black Hills, with pretty much any quality ammo. Shoots sub-half. With cheap bullshit like PMC Bronze, the aforementioned PMC Bronze. Shoots about 1.25 minutes, which pretty righteous given that ammo shoots about 3 minutes in other stuff. So really good 308. I just reviewed their 223 and shot like the tightest group of my life, like full on like 4/10 minute group, which is pretty good for me. So Accurate Ordnance, they gave me this koozie. They're nearby, like my general space this evening because of the koozie. So this vlog sponsored by Accurate Ordnance. Many thanks to them. So I'm a bit of a brass hoarder, so I get like these random pieces of brass. So I have been staring at this just shithole of brass, and I really reload for 6, 7. Let's see, 308, 243, 6.5 Creedmoor. Even though I don't even own a 6.5 Creedmoor right now, I would conservatively call that 1,500 pieces of brass for 6.5 Creedmoor. I shot a lot of 6.5 Creedmoor last year. So 308, 243, 6.5 Creedmoor, 30-30, 223, 300 Blackout, and 7 mag. 7. I think it's 7. So I was working my way through some 7 mag this evening. In fact, go ahead and do the needful. I completely ran out of bullets. I loaded up some 175 AccuBonds and some 120 grain ballistic tips. Both of those are, I think, behind a pretty modest charge of powder. I am not blowing primer pockets or cratering primers or doing anything crazy. And because I'm running a 28-inch barrel, I'm getting great velocity out of them. So, this is the remainder of my yet to be fully prepped 7 mag brass. This is actually Black Hills brass. This will probably be the topic of another article. So, make my way through things here. So, 7 mag brass, getting that tucked away. Got to label it. So this is 7 millimeter Rem mag. Black Hills. I don't have any other brass. Black Hills. Set back 0.002 inches. Trimmed. And then that's it. So it's not been primed, and it does not have any chamfer deburr on it. So put this away. So I also have I have a bag of 9mm brass over here, which I don't even reload for pistols, but maybe one day I will. And it's you can buy 9mm brass in bulk for free. It's basically free. So, given the baby on the way, not that that actually had anything to do with it, but I just feel like there is an impulse to clean and to get ready and to prep when baby is inbound. And for my wife, it is our visit to the tile showroom today. We're going to redo the tile in the kitchen. It's making sure the nursery is ready. She's got the car seat in the car. All that stuff. Weirdly, this is my space, so I wanted to make sure that the components I had on hand were actually worthwhile. So I had a lot of random 243 brass. I went through it this evening. I found, I had 100 pieces of Lapua brass, so anything that's not currently loaded was there. So I have that bagged up here. Bagged up, Lapua. This is not yet trimmed. None of this 243 brass is trimmed because my cutting die didn't show up. Fucking sucked. But it is all full-length resized, which is cool. I also found, so I had a shit pot of random assorted 243 brass, so I went through it and kind of sorted out what was there. What I found was 86 pieces of Hornady brass, which is usually pretty good brass. So going through the thing, I also found 63 Barnes TSXs, 85 grain TSXs, which is not actually a bullet I like that much. I prefer the 80 grain TTSX. It flies a little better. I use a shorter barrel, so a lower bullet weight's better for me. But I had them. Who fucking knows why? But I do. Hold on one second. As much as I love Turnpike, that was a little bit loud. Anyway, so I had these 86 pieces of brass or whatever. So my plan, I just went through. I ran them through the sizer again, just because you can never be too safe on making sure that brass is fully sized. So I ran them through the sizer, and I'm going to bag those up with a note that they are full-length resized, not trimmed, no chamfer, no deburr, obviously. And then once my trimmer gets in, I'll trim them down to spec, and I will load a workup with the 80 grain TSX for these, because I have it, and, cycle through some components. And that's loaded ammo, so, that's great, For that little 243, the 80 grain and the 85 grain probably shoot to the same point impact out to 200 yards anyway, so it's ammo to have on hand. Been screwed by that one before. So, last bag here. So this is the Hornady. What else are we going to talk? Oh, we got to write this down. Things we're going to talk about. We're going to talk about brass factory And we're going to talk about Sandmans. And then we're going to talk about... We'll talk about that first. Okay. So, I had to make a little... Normally, I would do this beforehand. Get myself prepped. Since this is such a high dollar production. Anyway. So this is... let's see. This is Hornady. By the way, I'm going off on a tangent here. That's the name of this blog, sponsored by Accurate Ordnances, going off on a tangent. I'm really impressed with Hornady from a... There are two companies that I'm really, like, I give a shit about when it comes to reloading components, and that's Nosler and that's Hornady. In fact, the Nosler book and the Hornady book marked with the cartridges I reload for. I was going through this discussion this week with a buddy of mine. So I reload for 300 Blackout, and the common subsonic bullet is the Sierra 220, the Sierra Match King, which is it's designed for larger 30 cals like 300 Win Mag. It's a really awesome bullet. But for like subsonic usage, it really doesn't matter that it has a high BC or that it's whatever. I mean, like, subsonic stuff is just fun to shoot, so it needs to be a fun to shoot, i.e. cheap round. So I got looking around for getting some more Match Kings because I'm almost out of 220 SMKs and I wanted to kind of load up some ammo. And I realized that Hornady makes a 225 grain boat tail hollow point match. I mean, it's a kind of a like for like. So I ordered 200 of those, and I'm going to do a workup. But I think they were like 10 cents a round cheaper than the 220 SMK. And nothing against the 220 SMK, it's a great bullet. But fuck, like 10 cents a round, it starts to add up. So, anyway, I'm going to try those out. Maybe they suck. But also, like, their 75 grain Bowtail Hollow Point, which is what I use for my, like, Precision 223 loads, is a very inexpensive but very good bullet. I've shot half-minute groups out of an AR with that bullet in, like, cheap brass. So, it's a good bullet, and, like, my buddy was all... He had a huge, horrific boner because Federal has started loading with burger bullets, which is cool. Like, they load the Juggernaut for Federal Gold Medal, but they're loading a 73 grain VLD, and he was like, oh, shit, it's so great. And I was like, tell me why, because, like, the 75 grain Bowtail Hollow Point from Hornady has a, like, Litz verified better BC than the 73 grain VLD. And it's like 20 cents a bullet cheaper. It's not 20 cents, but it is much cheaper. So like, why? And that 2 grains difference, like, what's it matter, you know? And then like they're, like for the 308s, they have the 150 FMJ, which is a great bullet and super cheap. They have a the 170. They have the whole ELD series, so if you do want to pay more money, you can get a really great bullet. Hornady's on top of their shit. And then like the Nosler side of the house, like they have the ballistic tip, which is a great bullet. They have the AccuBond, which is a great bullet. They have the AccuBond LR, which like I realized Nosler took some shit a couple years ago for really like inflating their BCs, but should verify shooting data anyway. Like, I don't know. I don't get too hyped up about that. Maybe that makes me a bad internet person. 243 win, full rank 3 size, no trim. Okay, cool. So we will bag this brass up. And then this is the hoarder in me coming out. So I'm out of Ziploc bags. I would have to go back to the house to get Ziploc bags. And I have 21 pieces of Barnes brass. I don't know anything about Barnes brass. Is it 20? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, sorry, 26 pieces of Barnes brass. Now, 80 some odd pieces of Hornady brass is a significant amount of brass because that's like, you know, for a hunting rifle, you know, like that's like 4 years of ammo, you know. It shouldn't be, but it is. So, like, 80 some odd pieces of brass, that's It's a significant amount of brass, I think, for like a hunting rifle. It's not for like a match shooter or something like that. But it's a significant enough amount of brass, so it's fine. 26 pieces of brass. I know that the proper answer is just throw it away. I already paid for this ammo, whatever. But there's this part of me that's like, well, maybe you find a weird bullet and you do a workup. Why don't you just use Hornady brass, you dumbass? Because you have a bunch of Hornady brass. In fact, you have 86 pieces of Hornady brass and only 60 some odd Barnes projectiles. So you'll have like 20 some odd pieces of leftover Hornady brass. I've convinced myself. You watched it live. I've convinced myself to throw away perfectly serviceable pieces of brass. But it's the right thing to do, you know? I'm not going to use it. Desiccant packs. Put those inside your bags of brass so your shit doesn't corrode. Alright! Woo! 43 brass. Fucking sorted. Alright, I'm gonna throw away this Barnes brass. I'm doing it! Fuck, that hurt. God, that hurt a lot. That hurt more than it should have. What else do I have? Is there 308 brass over there? No, that's all. See, that's another one. I got like 120 rounds of 308 Norma, like 168s. It's a nice round. But I have all this Norma brass, and Norma brass is super expensive and nice. So it's like, well, hold on to that. Oh, shit. I don't know if you can see that. That is a big goddamn beetle or whatever that just flew into the house. And by the house, I mean my shop. So, I was just inside kissing my wife goodnight. She's pregnant, very pregnant. We're right at the end. Monday was the sonogram. And my boy is making his dad proud. He's 3.5 weeks from his due date. And it's right at 6 to 6.5 pounds. So, like, it's kind of a large child. My wife is not a large human, so I don't know where all this baby is going to go. Anyway, you can see this thing. Oh man, it's right back there. You don't even realize how big this thing is. It's basically an eagle flapping around back there. So my wife is really kind of nearing the end of term. She's very tired, so 9:30 on a Saturday night or Friday night, putting her to bed. God, Jesus. Man, I hate bugs. Anyway, I was putting her to bed, and we were talking about some kind of work stuff that's going on. And, like, day job work is fine. There are some issues with, like, my upcoming leave, because I'm taking paternity leave and I'm taking a sabbatical. I trust that they'll all get worked out, but, like, it's one of those things where, like, I kind of had to escalate an issue today, which sucks. Just across the board, you never want to do that, but sometimes happens. So anyway, I escalated the issue, and then like I didn't hear anything today, so that was like this morning, kind of like midday. Some email got sent out, basically kind of like list of issues, and it got sent out to a couple of pretty important people. And so I was putting my wife to bed, and she said, hey, are you okay? Like, you don't seem like yourself. And I said, well, truthfully, I'm a little upset because that email went out to all these people, and it seems like nobody responded, Like, nobody even said, like, I realize these things can't be fixed overnight, but nobody said, like, hey, man, we're really sorry that this happened, and we're going to do everything we can to fix it, type thing. Like, just nobody responded. And so I was kind of upset about it. Accurate ordnance. I was kind of upset about it. Just generally, like, it kind of burns. I've worked for my day job company, which, whatever. I never want to say the name out loud, but, like, I don't know. It's pretty easy to figure out. You can Google me. Anyway, I've worked for them for 7.5 years, and like started right out of college, and I've kind of worked my way up through like various roles, and I've done a lot of things, and so there's like a significant portion of my time and effort and energy is wrapped up in this company. Like the majority of my 20s actually were spent with this company, and so like I have a deep emotional attachment and bond to the company, and so when things go wrong, like even though I just wrote an article about like, is this the hill you want to die on, and what's step two, like trying not to get too fired up about things, I do have a tendency to get fired up about things, and so I was chatting with my wife this evening, and I said, I'm really upset that nobody even responded to my email, or to this email about this issue for me, That kind of hurts. And she was like, yes, I get it. Totally. Like, that sucks. I'm sorry that happened. But you also need to realize that nobody will care about your problems as much as you care about your problems. There will never be anybody who takes a problem that affects you more seriously than you do. And it's like one of those, oh, of course, like, when my wife was a hospice nurse, she would meet with the families, on average, she would meet with the families of 2 dying patients per day. So, Monday through Thursday, 8 patients a week, pretty much minimum, sometimes 10 to 12 patients a week. She'd meet with the families of someone who's dying, so 8 to 12 new families of dying people. And I remember thinking to myself, what a really very significant day for all those people, like they have a loved one dying. Could be the first, person in their life who died. Could be the first time a parent died. Could be whatever, and my wife is gonna like get done with them and then go have lunch and then go see another person. And I remember thinking about how like there's this in like one person's point of reference, there's this huge thing like their mom or their dad or their aunt or their uncle or their child is dying. And it's this monstrous, landmark, huge thing in their life. But in my wife's day, it's one of only 2. And in her week, it's one of only 8 to 12. And in her month, it's, one of only 32 to maybe 48. Like, it starts to get kind of lost. And, there are obviously patients that stuck out, but, and I'm sure that my wife could recall every patient that she ever worked with, but, like, that frame of reference thing is really important. And I have found a lot of times over the years that it's important to give yourself a little bit of a gut check and give yourself a little bit of a humility check. Like, I love my dad to death. He's a kind of an asshole sometimes, but what he's really good at is reminding you that you're not important, which is ultimately a good thing. Like, like he, like, he's a very smart guy. He gets it. But he also, like, wants you to know that, like, your shit is only one of maybe a couple hundred things that are going on. And, like, ultimately, in the grand scheme, your shit isn't important. So, like, I grew up with, like, a guy kind of telling me that, like, hey, maybe your shit's not important. And I sometimes have to, like, ground myself again to remember that. Because, like, I work at a place where it's encouraged to care about people and to, like, make sure that your voice is heard and, you have a fair say and all these other things. So all that to say is, like, what my wife said kind of hit me upside the head and just further proved that, like, she's way smarter than me. It's important for me personally to remember that, like, nobody will care about my problem more than I will, and that the HR guy who got copied on this email probably has 6 other employees today who are pissed about something and emailing him, and so that frame of reference is really important. I only mention that just because, like, I think that that's the sort of thing I'll probably end up writing about, right? Um, but that's just like that's a very important thing to keep in mind is that like your problems, number one, you need to establish whether your problems are actually important or not, because they very well might not be. And that's part of that like pick which hill you're going to die on thing. Like you need to frame your problem, big picture, and decide, hey, is this really important? And then you need to ask yourself like, hey, am I getting super fired up about this because it only affects me, or am I getting fired up about this because it affects me and also other people, or am I getting fired up about this because it only affects other people and not me? Like, you need to reference that, and then you need to figure out like who you're talking to, and you need to figure out how your problem could be their problem. I think like that's the sort of like logical approach to problem solving I've taken in life, and it's worked out pretty well. But that's just like a little nugget that my wife gave me, and I thought that that was good advice. Talking about gun stuff. Where'd that bug go? I heard him buzzing around. God, I'm gonna kill him. Murked his ass. Come in my shop. Better not. That was brought to you by Gum Out, Jet Spray, Carb Choke, Parts Cleaner. Pretty bad at cleaning up like metal parts, but pretty fucking good at killing bugs. So, gun stuff. Woo! Gun things. So I mentioned when I was talking about reloading that wrote it down here. I mentioned like, oh, I got this Norma ammo, or like I have Black Hills ammo, or whatever the case may be. So within the like scope of reloading, and within kind of the frame, the framework of like understanding the economics of reloading, and like to be clear, there are very precious few circumstances where reloading is actually going to save you money. The economics are not good for getting into reloading. Just plain and simple. There are 1,000 subjective reasons why reloading is awesome and why I continue to reload. But a lot of people think that they can start reloading to save money, and that's not true. Unless you are shooting 20 to 30,000 plus rounds a year, I really don't think that there's any practical benefit from a cost perspective to getting into reloading. Because about the time that you start to make progress against it, you're eating up so much time because you're using like a single stage press and a, RCBS prep center that you say to yourself, holy shit, I need to get myself a Dillon and I need to get myself a garage trimmer. And now you're $1,000 or $1,200 in the hole, and you're trying to make that up like 20 cents at a time. So you're never gonna save money reloading unless you're shooting a lot. And if you're shooting a lot, you already know that you can save money reloading. So I would just say like, don't make cost the big reason for why you get into reloading. Now that said, there are still a lot of ways to save money. You don't have to go out and buy the most expensive components, the most expensive powders, the most expensive tools. You don't have to do any of that. Like, I have a Chargemaster. I really like my Chargemaster. I really think my Chargemaster has saved me a lot of time and effort and pain, but I could do everything that I'm doing with a trickler and a digital scale. You need to evaluate your time and how much time you want to spend reloading when you make decisions about buying equipment. But, you'll figure it out, right? That's kind of the other thing that, like, I think in an ideal scenario, if you bought all the right equipment, you could probably save money reloading. But the reality is that a lot of people buy a thing and then, like I have a digital beam, or I have, like, a digital scale and a powder pan for that digital scale and a trickler, and I used it for 1 week, and I was like, fuck all this shit. This takes too much time. I'm buying a Chargemaster. So I should have just bought the Charge Master to begin with, but I was like, no, I can afford that later. I don't know, it's too much money to spend. No. So, off that piece, componentry is the big consumable and the big part of the reloading cost calculation. So, in a loaded round, I don't need props, right? I don't think so. In a loaded round, bullet, primer, powder, case. So, in my 308, let's use my 308 as an example. Bullet is like maybe 30 cents. That's like a nice high quality bullet. Powder charge is like maybe 7 to 8 cents, and primers are like 3 cents. So, what did I say? 7, 3, that's 10 cents plus 30, that's like 40 cents, right? So that's 40 cents, and that's gone down the barrel. Like, you'll never get that money back. That turned into noise and fire and smoke and flash and everything else. So, one of the best places for you to save money when you are talking about reloading is on projectiles. I think if you're going to reload and you're going to take the time to reload, you should be using quality materials and you should be using quality projectiles. And like, I look at like a 55 grain full metal jacket 223 load, right? Like a fucking plain Jane mil-spec load. I just got an email that PMC Bronze 55 grain ammo is on sale for $289 for 1,000 rounds, so 29 cents a round. On my best day, I don't think I can reload 55 grain ammo for much better than about 29 cents a round, 28 cents a round, whatever. That's about as cheap as it gets. And it takes me a really long time to load. Like, I don't have a progressive press, so on a single stage, like, whatever. And PMC Bronze shoots like minute and a half, 2 minutes in most of the rifles that I shoot, which is like, it's good enough. That's not great accuracy, but that bullet sucks. Like, a 55 grain full metal jacket bullet blows donkeys for downrange performance. Like, you can't hunt with it because it sucks. I mean, you can shoot like, I guess, rabbits and coyotes maybe. Whatever. It's not a good hunting bullet. So, terminal ballistics, external ballistics, like how it flies through the fucking air, really bad, compared to like a 69 grain SMK or a 75 grain boat tail hollow point or a 77 grain SMK or fucking any bullet out there that's not a 55 grain bullet. Like, 55 grain bullets get beat up by the wind. So, unless you're loading thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands, and you're just churning it out, there's no point, right? So, you should go out and buy nicer projectiles for the stuff that you are loading for. Now, that's not to say that, like, you should go out and spend 45 cents a bullet for 223 ammo or anything, but, like, you should buy something that's, like, you know, from a large name brand like a Hornady, you know, a Nosler, a Berger, who else? Sierra, obviously. Or something specific to what you're trying to do, like a Barnes TTSX or a, I don't know, I've had some Spear stuff, and Spear makes great bullets. Whatever the case may be, you should focus on making the highest quality ammo that you possibly can with every round. Like, I use a single stage press and a Charge Master. Like, I am not set up to do volume reloading. Like, everything that I touch is a precision loaded round of ammunition. So, like, load to that spec. So, don't dick around loading, you know, 55 grain 223 ammo on your single stage press. Like, you're going to get disillusioned. Load weird shit like 243 factory ammo is like $1.40 a round or something. I can load it for much less than that. And I can load bullets I like suited to my gun with powders I like, and whatever else. Like, that's the whole beauty of reloading. So, the two biggest cost centers in reloading are brass and projectiles. The projectile thing is, dude, like, you're going to spend 30 cents a bullet, or you're going to spend, like, 20 cents a bullet, or maybe 15 cents a bullet. Like, there's just not, like, there's not a lot of, you're not going to cut costs in half, and half is 50 cents a round. Like, that's just not going to happen. Where you can spend less money, and I'm putting this in quotes, because a lot of it has to do with usage, is on brass. So, like, Lapua brass is pretty much the gold standard in my mind for quality brass. I have a lot of it. I like it a lot. For match loads, whatever, like, you're shooting F-class matches and you're screaming stuff out there, you can't leave anything to chance. Lapua brass is the shit, and there's a reason that anybody who does anything of note uses Lapua brass. Like, you can push it harder, it's stronger, it lasts longer, like, it is awesome. It is also really expensive compared to other things out on the market. So, just to take a look at this, you can buy 308 Win brass, not Palma, because that's probably even more expensive. I'm on MidwayUSA.com. $74.99 gets you a box of 100 Lapua brass. That is super awesome. So 75 cents per case for Lapua brass. Baller. That's awesome. Normally $83.99, so it's on sale right now. Let me pull up my favorite guys for former mill brass. Texas Brass Works. So if I go to 308 Win processed brass from Texas Brass Works, I can pick up, once it loads here, I can buy processed Lake City brass. This is, and by processed, this means I believe that it has been full-length resized. Let's see, fully reconditioned. Yeah, so I think it's all full-length resized, chamfer deburred, trimmed, whatever. 1425 for a 50 count, which means that is 2850. 2850. So 2850. So 28 and a half. Call it 29 cents per round. So much cheaper than Lapua brass. Now, can you push Lapua harder than Lake City? Probably. Is it more consistent lot to lot? Absolutely. Does it do everything that you can think of better? Yes, for sure. Lapua brass is better. And I think that if you are the kind of person who sits at the bench and sends rounds downrange, and you pick up all your brass, you police all your brass, whatever, go with Lapua. And the reason I say that is you'll get more firings out of it. Every time you get another firing out of a piece of brass, you lower the total cost of that brass. So if you take a $1 piece of brass and you can only get 2 firings out of it, that's a 50-cent per shot piece of brass. But if you can get 3 firings out of it, that's a 33-cent piece of brass, whatever. If you do a lot of moving and shooting, so if you're doing like PRS matches on the weekend, if you are regularly hunting, if you are, if you're doing anything, like if you're going to public ranges where you can't police your brass, or you're going to places where they don't let you police your brass. There are some places where like they have big grates you stand on, and so when you shoot, it falls in the thing. That brass is gone. If you're in a situation or you regularly shoot in a place where brass recovery is not possible, you're going to get eaten alive, basically paying 75 cents per round for brass. Like, you really should be looking at cheaper brass. So, all that to say, the way that I got into components for reloading, and the way that I started building up these, shit pot tubs of brass, was shooting factory ammo. Now, I had a very unique situation in that I was writing for a major publication, so I got a lot of free ammo thrown my way, which was the tits. I loved it. But I was doing a level of shooting that was pretty much in line with what I think, like, you know, maybe the top 30% or 40% of American gun owners are doing. Like, I wasn't blasting 25,000 rounds of ammo downrange last year. Like, I shot a couple thousand rounds last year. I made a dozen and a half trips to the range, maybe more, maybe less. Call it maybe 20 range trips. So basically, like, every other week I went shooting, and while I was there, I shot anywhere from 100 to 200 rounds of ammo. So that's like 2,000 to 4,000 rounds of ammo. I did my best to police my factory ammo brass, and that's how I ended up with lots and lots and lots of brass. And I got my start reloading using, so I had shot a bunch of federal gold medal 308 brass. So I had, or federal gold medal ammo. So I had like a bunch of 168s and 175s that I shot for reviews. I ended up with like 250 pieces of federal brass. Woohoo! I kept that brass, and then I taught myself like how to run brass through the process of prepping it. And I lost a lot of brass along the way as I like fucked up press setup, and I didn't understand how to chamfer things, and so whatever, like, or I didn't know how to set up my trimmer, or whatever the case may be. But that was already like bought and paid for ammo, and even if I'd paid for it out of my pocket, like, I got federal gold medal. It's good stuff. I paid, $1.25 for it, sent it down range, woohoo. I happened to have a piece of brass left over that was free, so I used it. So I taught myself how to reload. I'm not like, I fumbled my way through it Helen Keller style. Like, I, read a lot of books, and I watched videos on how to do it, and I talked to friends and everything else. But ultimately, the first load that I developed was using federal gold medal brass out of a 308 using 150 grain FMJ, because I bought the cheapest bullet that I could find, because I, didn't want to spend a bunch of money learning how to reload. Maybe it wasn't for me. And I put it behind, some Varget powder with some CCI powder, or CCI primers, and I put together a really good load. In fact, it took a Mossberg MVP that shot like, I don't know, minute and a quarter with factory ammo, including federal gold medal, and I shot like some 8/10, 7/10 minute groups using 150 grain FMJ, which is, as everybody knows, a shitty bullet, terrible, not even worth buying. Worked out pretty well. It's a good, it's a good load, and it was dirt cheap. So my advice to like new reloaders and people who are getting, especially if you're getting into a weird caliber, you can definitely go out and buy brass for that caliber. Like 243 is not weird, but it's kind of weird. You can go out and buy Lapua brass, whatever. You can also just go out and buy like Hornady ammo, and then shoot that Hornady ammo, and then end up with whatever 86 pieces of Hornady brass. That's a pretty good way to get started into the component side, because you get to do some shooting, and then you just keep your components, and then, like, you would have thrown that brass away anyway. It's not like nobody ever like keeps their brass and sells it to somebody. Like, that's a very rare thing. So get started that way. Like, don't feel like you have to go out and buy Lapua brass when you get started reloading. Like, buy some fucking Lake City brass for whatever, 28 cents a piece, or go out and buy a couple boxes of premium ammo like Federal or whatever. Or like, I have put together one of the best shooting 2-3 loads that I've ever put together. Is put together using PMC brass. Like, so, just go do your thing. Like, I got this 7 mag, which is great, but I got like 140 rounds, I think, of 7 mag ammo from Black Hills. You bet your ass I saved all that brass. Like, I don't really see a need to go out and buy really expensive 7 mag brass to get started reloading 7 mag. Like, I already have 140 pieces of brass, and it's pretty good. Like, I get good velocities, I get low SDs, like, I load good ammo out of it, and I don't have to go out and buy a bunch of brass. So, save your brass. If you think you're going to get into reloading, start saving your brass, and then, sort through it, and you're going to find that you've got, like, 26 pieces of Barnes brass. Throw that shit out. Unless you have like 100 pieces of Barnes brass, don't throw that out. Keep that. Work up loads out of that. That's why I have all this Creedmoor brass. Like, one day I will own a 6.5, and I'll have a bunch of components. So, speaking of one day I will own it, I am getting a gun boner, for that West Texas Ordnance switch lug. I've talked about it, I've written about it. I feel like the guys at West Texas Ordnance probably think I'm kind of weird. Like, I met Jonathan Rubio, who's like their gunsmith, one of their gunsmiths. I don't know. I called him an owner, and he's not an owner, I guess. I fucked that one up. Anyway, I met Jonathan at SHOT Show. He's a very nice guy, and we talked about like how we're both from Texas, and like I worked in Lubbock. I thought we had a good conversation. But now, like, we only had that one conversation in person. Like, I don't have his cell phone number. Like, we're not totes besties. So anyway, I've been wanting to, ever since I saw it, I've been wanting a West Texas Ordnance switch lug equipped rifle, because I realized that like the optic that I would use for like 90% of the shooting and hunting that I do is like this optic, whatever this is. It's probably a Night Force. It's probably like a Night Force, one of the like first focal plane Night Forces. It's that scope, right? It's that one. And that'll cover my hunting needs and my twice-a-year precision rifle needs and my once-a-year run-and-gun needs, whatever, right? It covers it. Got one scope. There's one stock I really like. I mean, like, I am a Macmillan fanboy. I like Macmillan stocks. I have an A3 Sporter. I really like that stock. I like that stock so much that I bought one without a rifle to put in it. So, more on that. Anyway, I really like that stock. That stock does, like, 90% of what I need it to do. But it's a good stock. And if it's not, the only thing that I would bitch about is that it probably doesn't have enough comb height, and I'll fucking drill a couple holes in it, and put a Karsten Kydex cheek riser on it. Done. Fiend. Ready, right? I like detachable bottom metals. That goes in my stock. Every rifle I'm ever going to have is going to have a detachable bottom metal, because I think that's worthwhile. See where I'm going? A lot of this stuff is common across a lot of things. The one thing that's different is I like a lot of different calibers, and I like a lot of different barrel configurations. So what switch lug allows you to do is have like standard action. In this case, a Remington pattern 700 Remington 700 short action pattern. Right? It could be a Stiller, it could be a Bighorn, it could be whatever the fuck. And a nice trigger, like a Calvin Elite or something like that. And a nice stock with a nice piece of glass on it. But you have the ability to run like a PTG 223 bolt, so you could run 223 and 300 blackout. You could Form 1 that rifle, so it's a registered short barrel. So you could run a little like 10-inch, 12.5-inch 300 blackout. You run a 12.5-inch 308 with your standard size bolt. So you could run 308, you run 260 Remington, you could run 6.5 Creedmoor, you could run, 338 Federal or 338 Creedmoor in a SBR, whatever you want to do. And a new barrel is going to cost you like, $500 or whatever, but you can get a premium, fucking awesome precision barrel cut. You just pop the old one off, pop the new one on, you're good to go. So I have a real gun boner for that WTO switch lug. I think that's a cool system. I think switch barrels are cool. The problem I have is like a Savage is technically a switch barrel, but like you have to take the optic off, and you have to take the action out, and you have to put it in a vise, and you have to headspace, and you have to do all this bullshit. Like it's not a quick system. And that's not to say that, like, I'm some tier 1 fucking operator and I need to be able to shoot 300 Win Mag or 223 out of the same gun and change it in the field or whatever. I just say that, like, once I have my scope on and leveled, I don't want to fuck with it again, you know? Like, once I have my action torqued down, I don't want to fuck with it again. Like, it's in there. We're done. So, if I just need to change out the barrel, why not just change out the barrel? So, it makes a ton of sense. Alright, all that settled. So, Bergara sent 2 actions, maybe more, I'm giving away too much, to West Texas Ordnance to find out if those guys would be able to switch lug equip their actions. And they can. So they switch lugged a B14 action, which is the cheap action, and a Premier action, which is the nice action. And I want to buy one of them. And I feel like I've gone almost creepy stalker girlfriend on the guys at West Texas Ordnance, because I'm like, hey, you want to sell that? Are you going to sell it? Do you want to get rid of it? Can I have it? Can I have it? Can I have it? I don't want to be that guy, but I fucking want that action really bad. I want it real bad. Also, just like from a testing perspective, like doing silencer testing, dude, having to have like 15 fucking guns to test silencers on is a pain in the dick. Like, especially if we're doing just like sound testing. Like, I want to know what a can sounds like on a 12.5-inch 300 blackout. Well, let me get out my 300 blackout rifle. Oh, I want to see what it sounds like on a 16-inch 5.56. Well, let me get out my 16-inch 5.56. Just have a bunch of fucking barrels spun up. Just test shit. Anyway, all that to say, I really want that West Texas Ordnance switch lug equipped action. And then I want to drop it in this A3 Sporter. I said I bought one. I have an intent to buy. No money has changed hands. It's just that when I talked to Bergara this week, I noticed that on the Bergara website, they have an overstock of A3 Sporters, and they're blowing them out. Good price. Real good price. Shop.bergarausa.com. Check them out. I'll give you the skinny $389.99 for an A3 Sporter, which is like a $650 stock. Sure, it probably needs to be pillar bedded and probably needs to be inletted. I don't fucking care. That's a great price. Even if you have to pay somebody to go do those things, who fucking cares? It's a great price. And the switch lug has to be bedded anyway, so rifle's gonna have to be bedded, or the stock's gonna have to be bedded. So I decided to piecemeal this thing together. So I'm gonna buy this action. Hopefully, man, hopefully they'll get back to me and tell me, yeah, we'd love for you to buy this action. That'd make us so happy. And then I'll get this stock in, and I'll sit for a while. This baby will come. Save up my shekels. Buy like a CDI bottom metal. Buy a PTG bolt. Buy a Timney Calvin Elite. You know, over time. Save up some more shekels. Send it off to Accurate Ordnance. Have them spin me up a couple barrels. Get that bad bitch back. All sighted in, ready to go. Man. Run a, during that time, do the Form 1 paperwork. Wait around, thumb up my ass for 12 months. Till the ATF deems me safe enough to have another SBR. Assholes. You approve the paperwork fucking once. Twice. The third time is going to go through too. Then have a nice little, have a little 12.5-inch 308. I talked to my buddy Brent about this week. 12.5-inch 308 shooting 125 grain Nosler ballistic tips. Let's pull out the book here. 308 Winchester. Go over to the 125 grain. Alright, let's see here. Well, out of a 24-inch Lilja barrel, we're seeing pretty consistently call it high-end 3,200 feet per second. That's out of a 24-inch barrel. Let's cut 12 inches of barrel off of it. My boy Brent tells me, easy money, 2,700 feet per second. Let's get out to like 400 yards. Because that bullet needs 1,800 feet per second to expand. Get out to 400 yards. 12.5-inch barrel, 7 inches of silencer on the end of it. You're right at 20 inches overall, or 20 inches of barrel length. Bro. That's shorter than most hunting rifles. That's why reloading is fucking cool, by the way. Because then you can, dude, the world opens up. Your eyes, once you start reloading, your life can truly begin. Because then you can get into weird shit. I've talked about this before. A couple years ago, I was like, man, I'm only ever going to own rifles in 223, 308, 30-06, and this 243 I got just because, you know, my parents gave it to me, man. But I'll tell you what, I'm standardizing fucking 9mm 12 gauge, 308, 223, and 30-06. That's all I need. Anything I ever need. Then I took up reloading. Got myself a 300 blackout rifle. I haven't shot a factory load through that yet. I'm kidding. I've shot factory loads through it. But I'm just saying, I haven't shot a factory load through it in a while. All hand loads. 243, obviously. Hand loading like a bitch. 7 mag. Hand loading like a bitch. You can't afford to shoot a 7 mag. Unless you're a millionaire, you can't afford to shoot a 7 mag on factory ammo. I know, I just said, like, cost shouldn't be your thing when it comes to reloading. It is. For 7 mag, it is. It's like $250 a round. Been looking at, so I don't currently reload for 30-06. I have a Grand, but I just haven't gotten into loading for the Grand yet. I will. Absolutely. Matter of time. Just a matter of time. But I have this long action Savage, got the 7 mag barrel on it. Been looking around for something else. Found a nice little 30-06 barrel for it, so I was like, perfect. Got dies already for 30-06. Pick up some brass somewhere, whatever. Be ready to go. Load up. That'll be a nice little, you know, bigger bore rifle. It's a little hunt rifle. This barrel's 24 inches. It's like a sporter profile. I'm going to cut it back to probably like 18 or 20 inches. So I can run a can on it all the time. It's going to be awesome. Very excited about that. Anyway, but then I was like, man, what I really want, what I really, really need, 6.506. That's a 30-06 neck down to 6.5. Or 270 necked up to 6.5. Is that right? 260, 270, no. 270 neck down to 260. 6.506 is a fucking wildcat. I don't even think that's Sammy approved. That's what happens when you start reloading. You start getting into, you're like, oh, I'll just get a 6.506 barrel. Total barrel burner. Don't care. Get maybe 800 rounds out of it total. I'll load them up, burn them down. That's what happens when you get into reloading. It's dangerous, but it's awesome. So anyway, back to my switch lug. Man, 12.5-inch 308. Shooting 125s. You can shoot 150s, 168s. They'll do fine. Not nearly as speedy, sure. People are still hitting 400 or 500 yards with it. Whatever. You got the can on it. No longer than your normal like hunting rifle. It's a 20-inch rifle, 20-inch bolt gun. That's a super handy barrel length. That's a very handy barrel length. Man, so pumped about it. Put a little 6mm. Do like 243. Do another little 243. Or do 6.5 Creedmoor. Do like an 18-inch 6.5 Creedmoor. I am psyched. That's the rifle that's got me doing a nice Pelican case with like the rifle and then like all the barrels. Be the envy. Everybody at the gun range. Anyway, last thing I wanted to talk about. Damn it! An hour already. Fuck. Ugh, gotta cut it down. I'm gonna save this for next time. I was gonna talk about the Sandmans, the Dead Air Sandmans. Talk about the Sandman S, Sandman K comparisons. Shot both of them. I like them both. But I'm not going to. I'm gonna leave that for another time. I appreciate that you have joined me this evening. I hope it's been fun. You saw me kill a flying fucking eagle of a bug. Talked about brass. Talked about loading up some of that Hornady brass. Gonna make a nice little 80 grain TSX load. I'd get started on that right now, but I've had a few. And I'm happy to process brass through the press when I've had a beer or two, you know? Absolutely. Have a brew, turn on some tunes, run the RAM. But try not to drink and load, because that's what happens. You make a drunken mistake that injures your sober self. Nope. You put like a Magnum primer in, because it all kind of looks the same. Put a Magnum primer in on a stout charge of 4350 or something. Blow your fucking face off. Not worth it, man. So come out in the shop. You know, you got a lot of brass to process. Have a brew. Have a couple brews. But leave the primers, powder on the shelf. Do your research for your loads, absolutely. Write up some notes, plan some things out. That's what I'll do after this. I'm going to go look up that Barnes 80 grain TSX, look up what powders I have, see what'll work. Some, build a load workup plan, but then I'll validate it sober, and I'll load some stuff sober. So, there it is. There's some advice for you. Anywho, peace and chicken grease, man. I'm Audi 5 large. Thanks for joining me this evening. You have a good one.